Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, regardless of what seed they come out in the AFC with, you do not want to play this team. Obviously, offensively, you have the most likely MVP in Patrick Mahomes. You are putting up 30 points a game. You have the number one offense in the NFL. So very clearly, you don't want to play the offense. But the secret sauce is the defense. Alright, we've been seeing this defense week by week, slowly but surely, get better and better and better. And we heard Justin Reid come out here and say this week, quote unquote, we don't have rookies anymore. Kind of implying that once these playoffs start, those first year guys, they need to step up. We'll get into the quote later on in the video. We'll talk a little bit about the offense as well. But before we do, if you guys enjoy this video, be sure to hit the like button, hit that sub button. I post a bunch of Chiefs content every single week, NFL content every single day. So Chiefs fans, if we could get this video to 500 likes, that would absolutely be huge for the algorithm. I appreciate you guys so much, and I want to hear your responses down below. Now, obviously, this defense has had some issues so far this season. It's been a little inconsistent, more so towards the start of the season. But defensively, I don't even care actually what the score of these football games are. That's not how I'm gonna dissect this defense. It's definitely not everything I'm gonna put into it. Now, these last two games of the season, they're honestly gonna tell me a lot. Kansas City is coming off one of their most all-around impressive games of the season. And I know it sounds a little bit crazy, but 24-10, defensively they showed up. All right, Geno Smith, the Seattle Seahawks, season on the line. They're 7-7. Geno ended up throwing for only 215 yards. He had an interception, but most importantly, the Kansas City Chiefs defense held their own. They stopped touchdowns. They only allowed one touchdown. Yeah, they gave up about 100 yards to Kenneth Walker, but only one touchdown given up. This defense is clicking at the right time, and to kind of get at what Justin Reid was saying here was basically this. We don't have rookies anymore. Here was his quote. They've had enough experience, and they've had enough games under their belt. They're first-year players still, but that title, rookie, we really want to throw that out of the window because of the experience and the snaps they have under the belt. All right? And what I love about this quote here is essentially the way the guys have been playing as well. So it's kind of lighting a fire under their ass a little bit, but that's specifically the defense in the secondary. These young guys are improving at a rapid rate. You know, it doesn't even have to be a rookie. It's a little bit of everybody. You know, fellow safety Juan Thornhill. He's had a very impressive season. A lot of these guys, specifically in the secondary, are getting hot right now. And what Justin Reid is kind of alluding to here is, we've heard Andy Reid touch on it a little bit in the last week or so, is once you get into the playoffs, these games speed up. Mistakes are magnetized by 10. Mistakes glare. And you can't be having mistakes. You can't be having silly pass interference calls late in games or at any point in these games. You got to be almost perfect. You got to be basically perfect if you're trying to win the Super Bowl. And I think that these young cats, I think the whole defense in general, obviously the Kansas City Chiefs defense was retooled so far in this past offseason, whether it was the draft or free agency or what have you, a lot of retooling going on in the defense. And you've been starting to see it all come together, start to click a lot more in the last several weeks. Because this defense, they're actually ranked 16th in the NFL. And I know that's literally middle of the pack, but they're trending towards getting better and better and better. And these last two games against Denver and Vegas, I think they're going to be critical for the continual momentum, specifically for these young cats. Now, offensively, I don't have really any fears about this team. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the video. But one thing Andy Reid talked about this past week was how good it's been to see these the defensive line specifically, get their hands up and impact throwing lanes, and how it's just been a game changer. Guys like George Karlaftis has been doing a great job at that, the rookie. So if you're not getting the pressure, because we've seen the secondary have some mistakes, we've seen some big plays, we've seen some pass interference calls, we've seen them struggle with quick receivers. If that defense isn't necessarily generating pressure on, the specific snap that you desire, they're getting their hands up. And you'll see it, man. You'll see it. It's a pain. When you're going up against defense, I feel like the Bengals do a pretty good job of that. When you play the Bengals defense, their defensive line does a great job. When they're not getting to that QB on that specific snap, their hands are up there and they're deflecting these passes. Whether it's Jermaine Pratt or whoever it is, they do a good job at that. And it's something I've been seeing a lot more from Kansas City, because I feel like this goes without saying. If the Kansas City Chiefs defense was, let's say, top 10, I mean, even just for argument's sake, let's say they were an elite defense, there's not a soul alive in the NFL who would want to play the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, we've seen teams like the Cincinnati Bengals have their way with Kansas City, specifically 3 wins in the last calendar year. Right? They have these fast receivers, and we saw it in the conference championship game. The Kansas City had a pretty big lead, and they kind of let their foot off the gas there. I don't have the same concerns with the offense this year, although I know it's still technically an issue. They're getting healthier, and they're getting healthier. Mecole Hardman won't be back this upcoming weekend against Denver, but he should be good to go in the playoffs. Now you have a fully healthy Kadarius Toney. Now you're starting to involve Jerick McKinnon not only in the rush attack, but in the pass attack. Isaiah Pacheco has now played almost a whole rookie season, so his confidence is booming. He's averaging almost 5 yards a carry. Then clearly you have probably the MVP in Patrick Mahomes with almost 5,000 yards already. He's got 37 touchdowns. He has 11 interceptions. It's an MVP season for Patrick Mahomes. He's got a combined 41 touchdowns if you combine the 4 rushing. You got Kelsey, you got Juju, you got MVS. You got a bunch of studs on the offensive side. So I think in shootouts, if it gets to shootouts, because the way I'm seeing it right now, I really only view 2 capable teams to getting to the conference championship or being able to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs, and it probably won't be until later on in the playoffs. You know, that's Buffalo and that's Cincinnati. Those are the 2 teams. So if it were to get to a shootout, that's where I think the defense steps up and makes these plays. One of you guys had a great comment yesterday on yesterday's video saying it's a bend, don't break. It's perfect. If you're giving up field goals, if you're bending a little bit, and you're giving up these field goals to guys like Joe Burrow, you're giving up field goals to Josh Allen, these electric offenses. You're giving up just 3 points, but your offense is putting up touchdowns. Your offense is putting up 30 a game. That's that's the secret sauce right there. Because when you play these electric offenses, like imagine playing the Chiefs, like they're going to score the football. It's just a fact. If you can hold it to field goals instead of touchdowns, if you can cause turnovers, if you can force sacks, if you can do all these little things, they compile. And at the end of the day, you're going to be pretty happy with that outcome. So I think that defense, I'm liking what I'm seeing recently. The eye test doesn't lie. It's not always going to be in the stat sheet and the score sheet. I think it was in the Seattle game, but I'm liking the direction. So hit that like button, hit that sub button, but most importantly, drop some opinions on this defense down below.